talk a little bit about the Indians. They're back in action tonight at Progressive. Jason Kipnis out for the season. Broken hamate, which where do we decide that is? Right here?
Yeah, I think it's down by the base of the pinky in that area.
And the assumption is the Indians won't. They will buy him out, but they won't try to sign him again. Is that what you're hearing?
I mean, it'd be almost impossible to believe the Indians would pick up his option. I think it's 15 or 16 mil. The buyout's 2.5, so that they'll buy him out. And more than likely, we've seen the last game that Jason Kipnis has played for the Indians. I had the audacity to tweet out that it's been quite a run, an 8-year run. Competitor. Great teammate,
solid,
cared about playing for the Indians, and most people agreed, but some of the blowback was just ridiculous.
Here's what he did as they close down the season for him: 245 average, 23 doubles, 17 homers, 65 RBIs, and 52 runs. I'll tell you what. You tell me your second baseman, a solid second baseman, is going to have that for a year. I think most people would take it.
Yeah, and that's 2019. I mean, he was an all-star. I never said that he was a great player, okay? In the pre-show meeting, I'm like, how many great players do you actually have the privilege to watch in your own town, okay? More often than not, they are solid. Rosters are made up of solid to good players, if you're fortunate,
right? And
then some not-so-good players. But very few are elite, great players.
All right, I'm thinking.
Doesn't mean you can't be a solid contributor to a team over time.
Correct. Now, when you pose that question, how many great players you see? Start with the Indians in '91, let's say, 1991. You got Albert Bell, you got Jim Thome, you got Manny Ramirez. Who else? Who else are we talking about?
I mean, I would put K-Love up there.
Lofton.
I mean, that team was loaded with them. And so, in that to me, though, is an outlier.
Right.
Most eras, you're not going to get a team that's stacked.
That's a good point.
Like the mid-'90s and late '90s Indians were. But to me, Kipnis was a guy who cared about his team, who cared about the city, who did a lot of things behind the scenes that people don't realize, nor did he want people to know, as far as helping out others. And also I know that he played with several injuries that would have shut down other guys.
Right.
And he kept playing because they really didn't have another option at second base at that time. And his numbers suffered, but he never said a word about it.
Okay, so now you got Detroit here for 3 games.
Yeah, the Mud Hens.
You got 4 sets of 3 to finish out the season. After the Mud Hens, you've got Washington. Then you've got, what else?
Well, the Phillies,
the Phillies.
And that's the end of the home slate, is 6 games, Mud Hens, Phillies, and then road White Sox, Nationals.
Okay, so tell me what you think is going to happen as far as the Indians are concerned. They've got 87 wins right now. They're a game and a half behind Tampa Bay and 1 in the loss column. Yeah. So what do you think? Of course, Tampa Bay is at the Dodger Stadium for a couple of games against the Dodgers.
I did not memorize Tampa's schedule to close, but I believe they still have the Dodgers, Yankees, and Red Sox.
That's exactly right.
So
4 against the Red Sox.
No picnic at all for the Rays. That's why I said weeks ago that I felt like the Indians and the Athletics were going to meet for the 1-game wild card, because I thought the Rays' schedule down the stretch was too difficult in comparison with the schedules of the A's
and
the
Yankees need those games because they're fighting for the home field against
They're battling
Houston.
home field. Listen, before some of these injuries, I was thinking the Indians were going to sweep the Mud Hens, but maybe the Mud Hens take 1. But I'm thinking at a minimum the Indians go 4-2 on the 6-game homestand, and then they're going to have to scratch out a couple against the White Sox. I hope the Nationals, I've said this a million times, I hope the Nationals lock up that number 1 wild card team.
You don't want Scherzer.
It's by no means locked up now, because the Nationals, Cubs, and Brewers are in a big old pig pile for those 2 spots. And the Cubs are breathing down the neck of the Cardinals in the division. So the Nationals might have to play to win that final series, and that would be a problem for Cleveland.
So look at the lineup the Indians have. Thank goodness they're playing the Tigers, because if they're playing anybody else, you're going to get smoked. I would think.
I mean, you would think it happens in baseball that even the worst lineups can beat the best teams, but yeah, right now the Indians are dealing with a rash of injuries. I still think if you've come this far, even with all the injuries, you got to find a way to get in to at least a one-game wild card and take your chances.
I hear people say, well, they're not going to win anything. First of all, it's good for the young players to play, especially the pitchers, to play in that atmosphere.
Of course.
Yeah.
For anyone that would say they would rather sit home than play in one playoff game is foolish.
I can picture everybody saying, oh, they got to fly all the way out to the West Coast to take on Oakland and then to come up empty. So what?